All right, this video is a request from Ted Polanski, no relation to Roman Polanski. He wanted to ask me about the Kandahar Giants. I'm going to do this in sections. Just my thoughts, nothing really concrete. There are a lot of videos about the Kandahar Giants. I think Ted asked me this question because of my 3-hour video I did yesterday, which very few people watched. So I had to start cutting those up. And I'm also going to take those and take the audio files and put them on Amazon. That way people can ride their bike or do whatever and listen to my 3-hour, rants with all that information, and it won't go to waste. So there that is. But so Ted, I'm not sure how many people are actually interested in a topic like this. Star seems to be. Star is a very interesting person. She's interested in a lot of things that I talk about. I never met Star, but she seems to be, I don't know, she seems to be wired kind of like I am, with a curious mind for science, but we're not scientists, but we're like, something's going on here. You know what I mean? So that's what I am, basically. I'm not really a scientist. I do have a degree, but it's not in the sciences. I have a health administration degree. I did enjoy my biology classes. I actually took a couple extra just because I really enjoyed looking at cadavers and trying to figure out what muscles and veins and arteries innervate into what. I was fascinated by the heart, and I think one of my biggest fascinations is, of course, the brain and the skin. All right, so when we're looking at Kandahar Giants, we're looking at the fact that these giants range in between 7 to 15 feet. So immediately when I think about these giants that are living in the mountains, I think about the Bible days in the book of Deuteronomy, which I've mentioned before to you guys, where those giants lived in the mountains. That's what they did. And those giants were, they lived in the Caucasus Mountains, and they lived in other mountains, and they were not black people, you know what I mean? And God made, European people, that we call them European, but the Caucasus, the people who lived in the mountains, they fought against these giants and killed them. And these are the people who dominate the planet now, the, so-called white people. But they were made to fight these giants because of their warlike nature. This is why we're always at war, because they just kept going. But the Lord said, do not fight against the people who fought against these giants. Now, these giants that, live in these mountains, according to the Bible, they were supposed to be the sons of God. And people think the angels came down and slept with women, but the angels did not come down and sleep with women. It was another race of humanoids that slept with the sons of man. And then they had these, huge babies, and all this other stuff happened, and they end up being giants that range from 7 feet to 35 feet to even taller than that. If you look at Mars and see how tall Mars was, he was just ridiculously tall, miles high. So there's that. But when we're talking about just the giants of Kandahar, we're talking between 7 to 15 feet. 7 feet is not a big deal to us. Manute Bol, Shaquille O'Neal, although when you're standing next to them, it's like, you're a whole 7'1", 7 foot, three, you know what I'm saying? And then there's Andre the Giant, who was 8 feet and was a wrestler, so he was moving around just fine. But he was an anomaly because he was 8 feet. Now, so, but the majority of the time, when somebody is ridiculously tall, it starts around 6'5". Somebody 6'5", you're like, that's impressive. The average person is around 5'10". The average man's around 5'11" to 6 feet. Until you start looking in certain regions, then you're gonna find out like Senegalese people are, tall and slim and all this. And it depends on what region you go to. Some regions people are thicker and more stout, but and this is the same with these giants. When giants are in a certain region, these giants are 7 feet. When they're in another region, these giants can grow to 15 feet, and so on and so forth. These are all have been recorded. So we find in bones all over the place of giants that range from 7 feet to 35 feet. The majority are in that average of 7 to 15 feet, and they're a race of red-haired giants. Now, these red-haired giants have been found in different places. So there are some that have not been, they weren't found in mountains. They were found on kind of like flat land. And they found women and the males, okay? But these particular giants that we're finding now, for one, they're alive. Two, they're saying that some of them have actually been domesticated and put into the military. But none of the ones that are so-called domesticated and put into the military are ranging, 15 feet. They're somewhere like 9 feet tall. So this is a very real thing that's happening, and I'm sure it's all going to come out in the open. But this is a very real thing, and we're going to see a lot of these mythical so-called creatures that were in the Bible days. We're going to see them. We're going to see them walking down the street. And it's going to be like, that is a 9-foot, woman. You know what I'm saying? Because right now, the tallest woman is 7 feet. She's Asian. What about it? Yeah, what about it? What about Nevada? But the tallest woman is 7 feet. She's Asian. Okay? So I think she's the tallest woman. But so, and then imagine, imagine seeing a woman 9 feet. So these things are going to happen. And I think once they start coming out to the open in the middle, and then, the US, along with NATO and Warsaw are going to be like, let people see these people, but let them see them slowly. I think we're going to start seeing people that are 15 feet. And how they're going to be introduced to us is they're going to be introduced to us the same way Andre the Giant was. Now imagine Andre the Giant being in the military. Imagine him being hopped up on whatever super soldier, mix they got going on now. Just imagine that. And then Andre the Giant showing up on a battlefield, in CQB, close quarter combat. It would scare the crap out of whoever he was going against. It'd be like, oh, heck no. We don't want to see Andre the Giant breach our doors. We don't want to see this. Now, imagine Andre the Giant, he's 8 feet. Imagine somebody 5 feet taller than him. And we're not talking about slow, speech, slow reflexes. We're talking about somebody whose speed, reflexes, cunning, the whole nine are, just the way ours is at 6 feet, the speed and everything. So imagine your speed or whatever at 6 feet, and then boom, you being faster, stronger, and some probably smarter or more cunning because you're 15 feet. Well, this is what they're running into in Kandahar. According to the story, the military was going into a mountain, and the giant saw them getting ready to enter. This is the way one story went. saw them getting ready to enter the mountain, came out of the brush and skewed one of the soldiers with a metal spear. Now let's dissect that just a little bit. For one, the giant recognized other people as enemies. That's for one. For two, the giant is not some big, stupid, dumb animal. One reason how we know this is because, for one, the giant had shoes on. He had animal padding on his feet. Okay. Another thing is he had a metal spear. He didn't have a wooden spear, even though that still says there's some smarts here somewhere. He had a metal spear. Now let's drink that in. How did this giant make metal? If we're supposed to think, oh, these giants are just big and stupid. That's how we love to say if something is big that it's stupid. But those soldiers, that isn't what they reported. They reported that this thing was fast, its reflexes was fast, and it was super strong, and it weighed 1,200 pounds. They also said that this soldier was taken down by sniper rifles and M4s. It took him 15 minutes to take this thing down by shooting it constantly. One shot would take down one of us. They were blowing this thing away and it still didn't go down. So you can say big and stupid all you want, but there's something about, this giant. They said it smelled really, really bad, but nonetheless is a force to be reckoned with. And like I said, go back to the metal spear. Just go back to that. Now, another story was supposed to be the same thing, but these soldiers were going into the cave, and this thing came out of the cave with extreme speed and obscured the soldiers. Anywhere around, it still skewered the soldiers. Any around. This thing was fast enough to engage all of these soldiers with M4s and sniper rifles. No. This is not an animal that's big and stupid. This is a warrior. It's a warrior class humanoid that is far stronger and faster than any of us will ever be. And this being was able to lift a whole human, a whole 6 foot plus man in gear straight up off the ground with one hand on the edge of a metal spear. No, that's not what you call stupid. This individual has some intelligence, okay? It probably has a lot of intelligence, especially if we're going to say, look, I don't think this one was an anomaly. There's a good chance there are more of them, okay? Now, we found a race of red-haired giants. We found their bones. We didn't find none of them alive. But the thing is, we found that they were attacked and they died suddenly because they were found hugging each other. So whatever wiped them out hit them all at once. Bang! Boom. They were buried in mud. Okay, almost upright. So something hit hard and just knocked them all out, but it also preserved their body. Their hair, you could still see their hair. Their bones were all intact. You can see the mothers holding the children, and the mothers were 7 feet tall on average. There was a race of red-haired giants. So we're finding that these are two races. They're finding them, they lived in different areas on the planet, but now we found one that's alive, and I guarantee you there are more, because if the Bible, if we're going to believe what the Bible says that they were in the days of Noah and after. And I went over this yesterday. If you're looking at the days of Noah, well, the days of Noah is when the flood hit. And, when we compared how much water was on the planet, it had to cover up the highest peak on the planet, which would be, Mount Everest, right? So that is 1 mile high. It's over 1,500 feet high. So the water went well above that. We also established that, according to the Bible, that the water did not all come from the top and rain down for 40 days and 40 nights. What happened is the ocean there are it says the fountains of the ocean opened up. So there's some type of fountains in the ocean that actually opened up and made the water swell. And that's how the whole planet was flooded. This flood is also recorded on every part of the planet. So we know the flood did happen. We also know that Noah's ship landed on Mount Ararat. Let's drink that in. Mount Ararat is a mountain, right? Noah was a nomad. They were not known to go up in the mountains. Now somebody says, hey, what actually happened was there was a lake that was elevated, and being that Noah was they were nomads, they did not know about this lake that was elevated. The lake broke, all the water came down, and boom, 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 and that's just nowhere near the truth. Because if that was the truth, then why did China record the same event? Why? Okay, they recorded the same event. So yeah, that's not going to fly at all. All right. People love to try to say that the Bible's wrong when we finding out more and more that it's correct. But anyways, leading back to the giants, like I said, they say they were in the days of Noah and after that. How did they survive after that? Did they go underground? Did they hide in the mountains that were airtight? I mean, what happened to these giants? Did they go through one portal, stay there for, a year or two, come back, all the water had been receded? What happened? How did these giants become in the days of Noah and after? Did the sons of God come back down and sleep with women? Or sleep with the sons of man? How is that possible? Because Noah was the only one here, and then he started to repopulate. So did Noah's seed become the son? That's a son of man, but who were the sons of God that came and slept with the sons of man again, and then made these giants? How did Gog and Magog become one of these giants? Because that's what they were. They're 12 to 13-foot giants that lived in the land of Canaan. So when you're looking at giants and you're looking at these giants that are living now, you have to, I'm not a science in that regard, but you have to say, how did you survive? How long have you been living? What is a lifespan of a 15-foot giant? Now we would like to say, oh, this is probably going to be along our range, or maybe less, because Andre the Giant has passed on. So we're probably thinking the taller you are, the quicker it is that you die. But they're only saying that because of giantism, or whatever that is, where the pituitary gland is actually being crushed by the skull, and it's releasing a growth pheromone, and that growth pheromone is constantly causing you to grow, and it's unnatural. That's where you see people who are slumped over when they're so tall. Their heads are bigger, their speech is slurred, they're not the smartest, pencil in the pack, things along that line. But when we look at this giant, that's nowhere near the case. All the people with giantism are not able to move very quickly. As a matter of fact, most of them have canes. The majority of them that you see that have giantism have canes. They have trouble walking because they're growing too fast. Their muscles are growing too fast. It's unnatural. This giant, nowhere near the truth. This thing ran at great speed. Let's get an understanding. These soldiers are all, 20 to 25, maybe? They're at the top of their game. When I was in the Army, I was 18. I was 19 till I was, 20, 21. I was, running a 2 mile in 11 minutes and under. I was at the top. I was at the peak of my game. Very peak of my game. Respiratory system, everything. Reflexes, everything. I was at the top of my game. I don't think they sent a bunch of sick soldiers in to the mountains of Kandahar and said, hey, go track down whatever's in there. No, I think they sent a special force in there, especially everybody who was in good shape, who knew what they were doing, who were cognizant, and they got bested by something that they did not expect to see. Their reflexes were, as high as they can get, but this thing came at them so fast that they couldn't shoot it down fast enough. They just couldn't. As a matter of fact, when they did shoot it down, it had already killed one of them. So, and it was talking to them. It was using its own speech. Whatever it was saying something to them. This is not an individual that is unintelligible. It's not. This is, and I'm going to bet a dime to a dollar. For one, it smelled really bad. It said it smelled like rotting flesh. So we know that this thing wasn't, eating gourmet meals. We know that this thing was a hunter-gatherer. We know this. We also, we can also surmise that because of its height, its strength, and its speed, that it was probably the apex predator in the area. Not unless there was one taller and or something else taller that would eat him. But we haven't ran into that. So this giant is the apex predator in the area. He's it. Him and his race, wherever they're at. They didn't find any other one. They just found that one. I'm willing to bet there's a whole bunch of them. And they probably live deep, deep in the planet somewhere. I'm willing to bet that. And I'm also willing to bet that this thing wasn't a creature that lived till, 40, 50 years. We like to, somebody with giantism, and we give them 40 years and they're dead. I don't believe that at all. I believe this creature probably could live a couple hundred years. Not take a bath one day and just be fine. Anyways, so that's 20 minutes. I know you guys' attention span is not that great. I'll come back with part 2 here, and I'll come. As a matter of fact, I'll come right back with part 2, but I want to keep these short because I want to be able to make money off of them. All right, I'll be right back.